Sports talk with R and B.
Oh yeah, sports talk with R&B.
Hello. Hello. Wait a minute, one actually works? What is this? No, it did just a minute ago. It was showing all the whiteboard and the chair. Doesn't seem to work on the green screen, though. I'm missing like a collar and a half and a lot of hair. Barry, it's not an issue. He's got a shaved head as it is. I didn't know we were cartoon figures.
All right, now you're back.
Yay. See, now it's better, Jody.
It is better. I don't know what the hell happened.
I don't either.
All right, so we're going to start. Baby's going to count you down.
Hold on. Can we put the video full screen, please?
All right,
I'm Ricky Mazella, and this
is the moment we've been waiting for, man. Let's do it. I know you've been waiting for this since you probably came to this school, or at least last semester.
Oh, yeah, since we came to the school.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but...
Well, yeah, I could even go as far as that for myself.
Sorry. Who's counting us down?
baby's going to count you down. All right, ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm Ricky Mazella, and this is Sports Talk with R&B.
I am Barry Ebua, and this is Sports Talk with R&B on WSCB,
89.9 FM, the birthplace.
Springfield College, Springfield, Mass.
Pride lives here,
Springfield lives here.
and you live here.
Well, not...
You are about to enter the forum
Where a battle of wit comes together.
in a showdown where Massachusetts meets New York.
Where only one man is victorious.
It's right here, right now,
Right here, right now,
on SCTV3.
on SCTV3.
Uh-oh. All right, and this is Sports Talk with R&B on the television. Glad to have you aboard, Ricky Mazella, for my co-host Barry Ebua. And starting off today, we do have a lot of banter for you, particularly featuring the Clippers and arena football.
And also, we have the Red Sox and Cubs finally agreed to a conversation on Theo Epstein, as well as the Celtics and if they should break up the Big Three or not.
In that time, it is time for the leadoff. And I know a lot of occurrences in this week to date. However, most recently, the signing of Manny Ramirez by the Oakland Athletics. Help or hurt, Barry?
Well, I mean, it kind of helps because they actually needed, some power in their lineup and a big bat, and he definitely gives them that. But the biggest question is, you know what I'm saying, how much left does he have in the tank and how productive of a hitter can he be? Because he's obviously at age 40, you figured he's going to be at the DH spot since he can't play the outfield anymore. So, you know what I'm saying? So, and especially with being away from the game a whole year. So, it's really going to be interesting to see, you know what I'm saying, if he's still got it.
I'm going to one-up you on that, Barry, and I personally have to say that not only has he been away for a year, but he's also got to serve that 50-game suspension as a result of the banned substance list, and that certainly has its implications. And, you know, even if he's performing, you know, well without any of that, my question now is can he still deliver on promise? Because you have the issue of, hey, I'm Manny Ramirez, and I have to step up my game. Otherwise, this is, you know, people are going to put shame to my name, and he can't afford that at this stage in his career.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing that this is kind of tagging on for what you said. Another thing you have to worry about is his ego and his Manny being Manny thing that, you know what I'm saying, he had in a Red Sox uniform with his time with the Red Sox. So I think that's definitely something that that athletics should be concerned about.
And I know this was never an issue when he was hardly known, when he was with the Cleveland Indians for the late 90s, and then he went to Boston, and since then everything's been turmoiled. He requested to be traded several times over.
Oh, yeah.
And when he was with the Red Sox, his combination with Mr. Ortiz over there and everybody else in the clubhouse, and that's been truly phenomenal what they did, despite, you know, some of the current allegations.
Yeah, I mean, I was just gonna say, yeah, you're right about that. You're right about that, and I feel like you know, that he could be a cancer to the team as he was to the Red Sox, because there was some huge chemistry problems, you know, ever since he was on the Red Sox, and you know, just, you know what I'm saying, he was a big issue in the clubhouse. So you know what I'm saying, that's also going to be another question is, you know what I'm saying, how, well, is he going to affect the chemistry of the team and be an issue, you know what I'm saying, in the clubhouse like he was in Boston.
All right, it's time for Barry on Demand, and Ricky on Demand will be coming up later in the show, but Barry will give you his intake on what he would like to talk about, and interesting topic about Theo Epstein and the negotiations between the Cubs and the Red Sox. Barry, continue on that, elaborate.
Yeah, it just came out today, as a matter of fact, that after 4 months, if you can believe it, the Red Sox and Cubs finally completed conversation and agreed to a deal in which the Red Sox receive right-hand reliever Chris Carpenter. And no, folks, if you think that the Chris Carpenter from the St. Louis Cardinals, you're wrong on that. You know, at first when I thought, you know, that you know, Chris Carpenter was coming to the Red Sox, I thought it was from the St. Louis Cardinals, but unfortunately that's not the case here. As Chris Carpenter from the Cubs was the 13th ranked prospect with the organization, and he was in the minor leagues last year, even though he did pitch in spring training with the team. And yeah, so the Red Sox would be getting him and a player later to be announced for Theo, and they'd obviously be giving up Theo Epstein. And to me, I feel like, you know what I'm saying, obviously the Cubs got the better side of the deal, and it wasn't a real fair agreement, because I feel like, you know, it was that was at a standstill for so long is because both sides were, you know what I'm saying, trying their hardest to, you know, come to
10 seconds.
An agreement. You know what I'm saying? You know, seeing that there was bad blood between the two. So yeah, I mean, you know, it's just this one didn't go the Red Sox way, as you know what I'm saying, you can see. And you know, I mean, I really don't understand why they wouldn't get at least a prospect that's in the top 10 or a better player for, you know what I'm saying, Theo Epstein, because there's a lot of concerns and a lot of things that the Red Sox need other than another reliever to add to their bullpen. So I really don't understand, you know what I'm saying, this, you know, trade an agreement that the teams came into terms today.
Keep going.
Also, I mean, you know, because I thought they would, you know, try to get Sterling Castro or, you know, Matt Garza, but apparently those guys weren't available, and the Cubs weren't willing to give those guys up, those kinds of guys for Theo Epstein, unfortunately for the Red Sox. So the real, you know what I'm saying, question is, you know what I'm saying, is Chris Carpenter gonna make the team, and how productive and how much of a factor can he be, and what role can he really play with the team? Because I'm even unsure about that, and as of most Red Sox fans are, and that's really, you know, only time will tell, and that's really going to be an interesting thing, you know what I'm saying, to find out, is if he even makes the team, or do they send him to Pawtucket first, you know, do they send him to Pawtucket first, and then call him up during the season. So, yeah, well, now going into my second topic that I wanted to touch base upon, I wanted to talk about the Celtics, and if they should make a deal in the, if they should make a trade, in the, major deal in the trade deadline, and what I think about that, my opinion on that is that I think they should, just for the fact that, you know, I mean, the team's old, and you know what I'm saying, they need to reshape the roster, and they need to get younger and more athletic, and you know, especially if they want to compete with the Miami Heat and Chicago Bulls, who they might have to face in the first round.
Well, that brings up a lot of different points. I'll start with the initial topic with the Cubs. Because Epstein decided that he was to resign, that was to make effort that he shouldn't be paid anything because he quit. Whereas if he was fired, and if he was being still under contract, he would have to continue to do that. Also, with the Celtics thing, I think that they're fine just the way they are. That's all I can really say about the Celtics, because I don't think there should be changes made. All right, Barry, last thought?
My last thought on on that is my last thought on that is going back to the Epstein thing, is I feel like the Red Sox should have held, you know what I'm saying, held out on that deal for a little longer until they got, you know, something better in return, because I feel like this deal is pretty much pointless for them, and won't be really, you know, they won't really need it as the season starts.
All right, and moving on, we have heard a lot about Linsanity over the past few weeks, and finally having been handed their first loss to among the league's worst Hornets of New Orleans. And what's going on over there, Barry?
Well, Jeremy Lin, who's been cut by two teams, the Golden State Warriors and the Houston Rockets, recently the Golden State Warriors this season, and he went to Harvard. He, played for the University of Harvard 4 years. For 4 years, has apparently come out of nowhere and has just, started, and has just, been sensational and, given that team the spark that they needed, especially at the point guard position, because they really needed a true point guard because they were lacking that and they didn't really have anyone on the roster who could play that position, really productively and effectively. So he stepped up big time, and he's certainly balling right now, and he's made some big time plays for that team.
Particularly in more important games, he's been lighting it up the most, and I see him more transitioning to an assistant role where he'll be getting a lot of assists and dishing off once we for sure will have Carmelo Anthony and Mari Stoudemire now back. That'll be very influential, but you notice that they are now in the playoffs right now, if the playoffs were to start today, coming into All-Star Weekend. But that'll surely have its impact in time. Now, we have spring training coming up, and my question would be, who's going to have the most impact to their team? Prince Fielder to the Tigers, Pujols to the Angels, Yu Darvish being signed by the Texas Rangers, and we mentioned Manny earlier. We also mentioned Cespedes with the A's as well. Anybody else that you might come to mind?
Ooh, the player that's going to have the biggest impact that is going to a new team, to me, it's definitely Albert Pujols by far, no question about that. He's definitely makes that team, a contender and changes the whole complexion of that, lineup. Complexion of that lineup by so much. He's gonna make everyone else around him a better hitter, and they're gonna be seeing more fastballs and better pitches to hit. And he's, gonna be the same kind of player he was in with the Cardinals, and he's just gonna be himself and do what he usually does, which is hit home runs.
Well, my thing, I had two potential people on the list, and my second would be Yu Darvish, because here's the thing, Darvish Yu is right now under the radar just because nobody's really seen him play for the most part. You could say the same thing with Cespedes, but Darvish coming from the Nippon League, I believe he came from. So it's he's spent some time in Japan, as Ichiro has, as a lot of other Japanese players that are trying to come out here. But I really have to go back to Manny, because again, he's serving that 50-game suspension after being reduced by half of what it originally was. So you have that, and then obviously, will he be back in time to save the A's? It's not so matter of whether or not he'll perform, but it's whether or not will he be back in enough time to save the A's and potentially get a wild card spot. So that's definitely in the balance. Now, I'll give you this one. I know it's a little bit a ways away, but with the NFL draft coming up, and we've had the hype of, you had the two big quarterback names to be drafted having their scouting day on the same day. Who's going to be picked first? Is it going to be Andrew Luck? Is it going to be Robert Griffin III? Or is it going to be somebody else for that matter?
My opinion on that, I think it's going to be Andrew Luck, because I feel like he's the kind of, quarterback that the Colts want, because I feel like they want a guy that's, Peyton Manning like, They want someone who's gonna be able to fill his shoes. I'm not taking anything away from Robert Griffin and saying that he can't, because he's a phenomenal and outstanding quarterback. But I feel like, Andrew Luck's the more, prototype NFL quarterback, and is best for the Colts kind of offense that they run.
Well, My thing is that I think they're going to pick Luck, but I would take RG3 in this instance because he can also run the football. I mean, you've seen a lot of people that have had that talent, one of them being Tim Tebow, especially with not liking to throw in traffic. Tebow's tended to go to the run. Fitzpatrick tends to run if he doesn't find anything. Also, Michael Vick.
Fitzpatrick can run?
Yes, he can. But Michael Vick, obviously, most notably, and the thing with Michael Vick is he's still got it. But because RG3 can do that, that'll help him significantly if he gets in trouble, especially with the offensive line that the Colts have. Meanwhile, going now to the Daytona 500, we have several stats here. I'm going to bring them up. Tony Stewart has 44 Cup wins. All the players I'm about to mention are active. He's only had 1 second-place finish at Daytona. None of these players have had first-place finishes. Mark Martin, 40 Cup wins, second. Kurt Busch has 3 second-place finishes. He's got 24 total Cup wins. Kyle Busch only has a 4th-place finish. Terry Labonte, 3 as well in second-place finishes, also second. Jeff Burton, Bobby Labonte, and Carl Edwards each have 1. Also, 2 17th place finishes for Denny Hamlin, and Greg Biffle. He's had the pole once, and he's also been 3rd once. Do you think any of those guys might be able to pull out with their first Daytona win, and potentially would that send them perhaps to a Cup win this year?
Well, I think a guy that's, going to win out of those is probably either Kurt Busch or Jeff Gordon. I can definitely see them, being, one of the top contenders to, win the Daytona 500 this year. And also in terms of, winning the Cup, that I think those guys would definitely be the top 2 contenders for the Cup Series.
Well, you bring a good point in Jeff Gordon, who isn't on this list because he has won a Daytona. But then again, you have other important races like the Indy 500 and all the rest of those. So in Talladega and depending on which Cup we're talking about as well. So that definitely has its face on it. And the final thing I want to talk about, the NL All-Star Game, since you and I are both going to it this coming Saturday. What are you expecting from it?
Wow, the NL All-Star Game. Well, it is interesting that me and you will both be attending this event, and I'm expecting an exciting, high, up-tempo, fast game with, a lot of action and a lot of highlights, a lot of highlights and just a lot of amazing, plays that we don't typically see in your typical lacrosse game. So I'm definitely expecting to see something that I've never quite seen before.
And being in Buffalo, you won't notice this, but a lot of people associated with the franchise now, this is their 21st year, they finally get to host an all-star game, and this is going to be the 7th or 8th one overall, 8th I believe now. So you notice John Tavares, the legend, he's the captain of the East team. John Grant, one of Buffalo's fiercest rivals with Rochester forever and a day. Pat McCready, representing the Rochester Nighthawks, has been with the Bandits a couple of stints. The assistant coach is going to be Darius Kilgore after having lost the East Final to the head coach of Toronto, who was Troy Cordingley. Cordingley had a career with the Bandits. He also was the assistant manager under Darius Kilgore for a little while, and the assistant coach of the Edmonton Rush, Derek Keenan, he played and had some front office experience with the Bandits as well earlier in the 90s. Also, you take a look at other players that are going to be in. Obviously, Tavares is starting. Billy D. Smith will also be starting, as well as goaltender Mike Thompson. They are currently with the team. Other members include Luke Wiles, Scott Self. They're currently with the team. Chris Corbeil was just traded to Edmonton in the offseason. Chris White also currently with the team. You have also Jeff Shatler of Calgary. He's had success in Calgary, but he did start out with the Buffalo Bandits. I'm surprised Tracy Koleski didn't get selected for the All-Star game after coming off of last year, and Koleski being the originally drafted by the Bandits, but he wound up going back to college and then got redrafted by Calgary in the entry draft in 2001. Now, it's time for myself, Ricky, on demand, as we have a good amount of Clippers action for you, and I'm going to briefly discuss arena football before we get to that. Now, arena football, they're in their 25th season this year. Kudos to them. You know, that's always a wonderful milestone to have, and the National Lacrosse League did it last year, and the AFL would have done it last year as well if not for the 2008 season lockout, but or beg your pardon, the 09 season lockout. But what they have done, you know, for helping pioneer indoor sports along with the National Lacrosse League has been absolutely spectacular. And Jacksonville, coming off the championship that they had, the season starts on the 9th. Those are the first sets of games in the arena football. But I really want to talk right now about the Clippers. And I've noticed that every time I happen to turn on the television, you know, there's always the Clippers and somebody as the game of the week or the game of the night, whatever it happens to be. And don't not give credit to anybody else. I'm not saying that the Clippers are a horrible team. No, but I think maybe do the Clippers possibly get too much credit? I mean, yes, they have players like Blake Griffin to help you out, and quite frankly, also that's another thing about the Clippers is with Blake Griffin. I mean, he was a good collegiate player, but to be quite honest, I'm not very impressed with a lot of the things he's been doing. I mean, dunks, you know, and blocks. I think the blocks have been the better part of his game. He's been doing a lot more of that. He's developed as a player because of that. But I honestly think that, you know, dunks aren't really anything special. And I wanted to know what your take was on it. But with the Clippers, you have, you know, there are all these anticipated matchups. For instance, you have the Kevin Durant show versus Blake Griffin, or Blake Griffin versus Ricky Rubio of the Timberwolves, or any of those kind of matchups, or Blake and Kobe specifically with the intercity rivalry in Los Angeles between the Clippers and the Lakers. So what I want to know is, how do they manage all of these games and yet still you don't typically see any other teams playing outside of the Clippers and whoever opponent they might be playing? So this is definitely something that I'm kind of bugged about per se, but I would have to definitely feel that this is, you know, this is definitely a primetime thing where, oh, everybody wants to see a good game. Well, just because the Clippers are playing doesn't make it necessarily a good game. You could see a horrible game. For instance, LSU and Alabama, the first game that they played in the regular season. You know, everybody expected that to be a wonderful game. It was, in reality, it really wasn't. And, you know, I was very disappointed, you know, in that. I mean, people say, oh, it was a defensive game, but no, it really wasn't when it comes down to it, especially when you have Alabama who missed 4 field goals. But you're always looking for good matchups, rivalries or not, and don't get me wrong, they are hard to find, but when you have teams like the Clippers, they're really one of the few good teams this year. I mean, especially with the lockout, that changed so much. And I think that if not for Chris Paul being approved the second time by Commissioner Stern, who has been involved with a lot of controversial issues both during and before his tenure as commissioner, has definitely had his impact with many of the discussions.
Yeah, I mean, talking about the Clippers, I mean, I don't know how you can say that Blake Griffin hasn't been impressive. I mean, I think you might need to look at his highlights and look at the game tape